Welcome back to the library of Ludus Infinium. Today we look into the 6th record of Might and Magic 8, Day of the Destroyer, declaring war on the elements. Also, after the series is complete, before I release the record of my thoughts on the universe, I will release a special record requested by a friend. We start our quest after Xanthor tasks us with obtaining the heartstones from the 4 elemental planes. Xanthor has taken up residence in Ravenshore, in one of the previously uninhabited hostels. As you can see, I've already cleared the crystal, so the last video I do in the series will unfortunately be stills. I apologize. Going to Daggerwounds Island, we'll be going to the southeast corner of the map, to the plane of Earth. The creatures in this plane have high HP and defenses, and consist of earth elementals, juggernauts, and boulders. This universe has some strange enemies when a rock poses a threat. Working our way through the plane, we will eventually come to an elevator that leads down to a subterranean building. Right here is the elevator. And at the very back of this building is the room that contains the Heartstone of Earth. And here we have a couple of lesser earth elementals. The way to tell the difference is by color. In the case of earth elementals, brown is a lesser earth elemental, blue is a regular earth elemental, and red is a greater earth elemental. And this is the room where the Heart of Stone should be, and where an enemy has glitched out. As a little side note, for those of you who don't know, I'm usually really patient for games that have glitches. As you can clearly see, this is a game that is almost 20 years old and still has glitches that haven't been fixed. And as you can see here, lesser earth elementals use the earth spell Blades, whereas regular earth elementals use the earth spell Rock Blast. The difference between the two is one does damage to a single member of your party, the other does damage to all members of your party. And just doing a little bit of looting that I forgot to do on my original trip through here. This is actually probably my least favorite plane to do, if not tied with fire. Next, we will go to Ravage Roaming. Outside of the Minotaur lair of Balthazar's lair, we are going to the plane of water, which between it and air are considered two of the easier planes to do. The reason the planes of water and air are generally easier is because the amount of enemies outside. Fire has enemies outside as well, but they're usually a little bit hardier than the previous two. Water is completely outside, and with the correct application of the spells Armageddon and Divine Intervention or Power Cure, you can easily kill everything inside the plane of water and then just walk up and take the Heartstone, which is basically what I did. However, in both the cases of fire and air, you have to go to their particular castles which I will get to in their sections. However, the reason air is easier than fire, like I've stated before, is generally the enemies in the plane of air are weaker than the enemies in the plane of fire. In the top right hand corner of the map, you can get to the heartstone. One of the other things that makes the plane of water easier, like I've stated before, is where you can use spells that can only be used outside. Flight will help you get over some previously inaccessible areas. Also, something I forgot to mention beforehand, if you do have a Lich character, the only place to learn the Grandmaster level of each spell class is in its respective plane of the elements. For instance, earth with earth, fire with fire, and so on. With dark magic and light magic, for the Lich and Priest of the Sun respectively, it's on the island of Regna. For the three other classes of magic, for the Priest, they're all in Murmur Woods. And here is where the Heartstone normally is. And a little side trip to Regna, just to get some food, because this tavern, being the highest level out of all of them, gives you the most food. Once we complete our business in the plane of water, we're going to the plane of fire in Iron Sand Desert. I had showed you prior the kind of damage just the portal arriving in Iron Sand Desert did, destroying, I believe, over half of the village. The funny thing about the plane of fire is it is the only plane I can think of that requires a specific class, being the vampire. There are certain areas where if you do not have the vampire class's expert ability levitate, you will take damage to the point where if you're not careful and not healing appropriately, it can kill your party, or at least kill off your healer, which will ultimately lead to the death of your entire party. Now, as you can see here, again, just where I've killed everything, the enemies in the plane of water consist of water elementals and dragon turtles. The enemies in the plane of fire consist of fire elementals, nagas, and salamanders, I believe. I'm sorry, that's wrong. It consists of fire elementals and just salamanders. Now we're at the Castle of Fire, and as you can see, the lava will damage. Since I was just doing a quick run through it, figured I would leave my vampire behind. Now regretting that a little bit. And for those of you who remember from my first record me talking about not spoiling later parts of the game, I'm going to spoil one quick thing. Here in the Plane of Fire, you should recognize this floor pattern from the abandoned temple inside of Daggerwound Islands.
Always remember, kids, bring your healer.
The main difference between the two rooms, though, is this room the first room or second room, whichever way you're going, has a thinner route, so it's a lot easier to fall off into the lava. Now that we've lowered that, we go up the elevator. And also the unique thing about the fire and air planes is that they have, or at least they seem to have, more puzzles in them, being button puzzles or, the specific route on the floor, whereas the planes of earth and water really don't have that. And I'll explain the puzzle to the plane of air when we get to it. So here you gotta do a little bit of jumping, and normally you'd have to press this button right up here in the corner of my screen, go through a teleporter, and you don't have to worry right here because this level won't burn you. And also the unique thing about fire elementals is there's no distinct way to tell the difference between them. They all look the same. Air elementals, the only way to tell the difference between them is with size. Lesser air elementals are generally smaller. Air elementals are medium size, and greater air elementals are larger. And here's the heartstone holder. Now we are on our way. Again, another wonderful glitch in a 20-year-old game. None of these are necessarily game breaking. This particular glitch where it turns the entire sky and basically atmosphere red can make it a little hard on the eyes. But other than that, it's just a huge color change. That's it. Um, Now we've headed into Murmur Woods to the plane of air. Up here in the northeast corner, just to the north of the entrance to Murmur Woods. And if we head west from the portal of air, we get to the castle of air. As stated before, the air elementals are generally the weakest of the four, so they pose the least amount of threat. The only reason I would put water easier than air overall is because where everything's outside, you can just spam a spell like the Dark Master spell Armageddon and kill everything on the plane. Whereas in the plane of air, you've still got to come to the castle of air and have to kill the stuff inside without that ability. And here behind this hidden bookcase, you see where the heartstone holder is. And now that we have all 4 heartstones, we'll be returning to Xanthor in Ravenshore so that he can make the key of the elements out of all of them to enter the crystal. Back at the origin point of this quest, the hostel right beside where the crystal should be. In the next record, we will be concluding the main story portion of Might and Magicate Day of the Destroyer and move on to the next. Since I am undecided, leave your opinion on which collection you'd like to see next. Fallout 4, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, or one of the games from the Dawn of War series. Thank you all for joining me, and I cannot wait for you all to enjoy. This is Ludus Infinium, signing off.